welcome to another episode.
Oh,
whatever that was. Oh man, this is off to a good start. You know, we have the most important guests. I can't even get the name of the show out here. Welcome to another episode of Reptile Fight Club. I'm Justin Julander, and here also is Chuck Poland.
Hot damn! Good job, dude.
Thanks. I knew you'd support me in that one. And we are joined.
I always support you, dude.
We are joined today by the one and only Podfather and the one and only Mac and Wookie. Welcome, Eric and Owen.
What's up?
So yeah, I think this all came about because I was watching Carpets and Coffee, and Owen brought up the topic of having if morphs are good, you know, for a rare species that's, you know, less commonly kept, and they're like, yeah, let's fight about it. And I'm like, oh, they're going to come on the show.
I said the magic words of, I bet we could do a Reptile Fight Club about that. And of course, like within moments, Justin was like, yes. Like,
You're damn right.
You're damn right you can. And that was just, you know, you just toss that out there. Every once in a while when we're out herping, I'll say, that could be a Reptile Fight Club episode. Middle of the desert, Justin's like, it could be. Right now, let's do it.
Let's record.
Let's go. I got the thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we've done a couple from the field. I know Eric was on
I was going to say,
one, right? Or two. Did
Justin
we do two?
is not shy about from the field recording.
Yeah, I think we did one with Justin's with Schmitty and Phil. Was Phil and Schmitty, and then you and Rob, right?
Me and Rob.
Yeah,
right.
It was good times. Did we didn't do another one, did we? We didn't do an earlier one.
You did a group one, didn't you? When you guys were out herping, though.
I think that was.
Didn't
the
you
one.
do one with the
In
did one with
THN? The THN. Yeah.
You did one with Keith in Arizona, but that was, I think, prior to us.
Yeah.
Was that Arizona?
Yeah, that was
That's true.
That was prior to us getting there. So that was like
Keith was the first one to arrive, so I picked him up and I said, "Now you have to do a Reptile Fight Club.
Now you're stuck,
captive audience." And so we went to a park, and I was like,
"He gets in the car, the door's locked
immediately." Yeah.
Oh crap!
Oh no!
I've started recording. Talk, or I drive us off a cliff.
Oh my gosh!
We must fight.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys. This will be fun.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
I figure if NPR is still a show by the end of this, we've done okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, welcome to the show. You know, it's sad to hear you're retiring, and you know, making the Reptile Fight Club the #1 show on the network. But
I mean, we appreciate it, but it is kind of a sad day, right? Like,
NPR will stop when one of us is dead. It'd probably be me at this point. So
you can't get dead
well,
yet. You're getting married.
I was going to say we have the double Jeopardy prize for this fight club, so the winner actually gets to live. So
nice.
Somebody may die on the end of this.
See, the stakes have been raised. Cool.
We, you know, listen, you know, prime guests get prime, prime prizes.
Fall sweeps. You got to get the numbers.
I feel like.
Yep.
I feel like this is David and Goliath type of thing here. The Hobbit and the Viking.
Yeah, I guess if the story is correct, then you want to be on Eric's side this time around, I guess.
Something like
if it's
that.
David and Goliath. I was watching an old Saturday Night Live skit the other day, and it was like the Karate Teen. And it had like John Cena was like the Cobra Kai guy. And one of the Saturday Night Live guys was Daniel, and like he kicks him through. John Cena kicks him through like 5 walls, and he like loses his pants and stuff. It's pretty great. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, it's good.
All right, well, I guess it could go that way too. Owen could just kick you through a few walls, but
I mean,
that's why I'm here. I want to see that.
Yep.
Let's.
All right, well, what's going on in the world of reptiles? I just got some posters. I printed a bunch of posters out. Oh yeah, there you go, right on Eric's wall.
Mine's in a tube over here.
Oh, in a tube. There's a prime space right behind your head there.
haven't put it up yet. Well, that spot is reserved for Eric in his full Pope regalia when I get that printed. Like that, you can't. It's going to be up here where I can stare at it while I work and cry.
There you go.
So, yeah.
But I found out that I printed them off at my university. I found out it was not allowed to resell those, and so I'm like, because the guy's like, "Why are you printing so many of these?" And I'm like, "Oh, just to wallpaper my house. Yeah, I just really like this poster."
You're asking a lot of questions there, dude. Like
He's like, you can't resell these. I'm like, I did not know that, but I guess that's good to know.
Damn it!
So I had to find another supplier, and I just got I ordered 50 of them, and they came, and they're not as good a quality as the original one. So I don't know. We'll see how. I haven't really unpacked them much. I just kind of looked at them and felt them
Maybe you could wait until a different, I assume they're students that have jobs that are manning.
That's right. Just
the
wait.
Thing.
Till,
You just wait
find a different one.
Wait a few months.
Maybe you could run through like a print by the time you get back around to the same person.
Yeah, one of the guys that's waiting on posters, because I ran out of the other ones. He's like, "Hey, there's guys in my country that are getting these posters, and you're not sending me any. What's going on here?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I ran out. They were faster. I don't know what to tell you." Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I guess they're popular in Japan. I've sent about 50 over to Japan, so
nice.
No shit.
A few more people want more. So
for the book and the signature, can I request a Simpsons quote somewhere in the book be penned in? Oh, thank you.
I need to do that in every book. Just have a Simpson quote marathon.
It gets a unique Simpsons quote in every copy sold.
That's a tough one. I got to think of a good one for you.
I figure I'd give you
What a
some of my
time
homework.
to be alive.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I'm just glad Eric's getting in on the Simpsons quotes these days. He does the heart.
He
good.
went
Slowly
kicking
but
and
surely.
screaming, but we eventually got him where he needed to be. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Owen sat down with a
wanna be
gun and
cool.
said, "Okay, turn on."
Learn. Honestly, it was the fact that you were involved in it, because when it was just me and Rob, he was like, "These two idiots," and then when you jumped in, it was like, "I'm outnumbered." It's horribly now.
All the cool kids are
All the
doing
cool kids are
Simpsons
doing
Yeah,
quotes.
it does help when everybody but you is doing it.
Yeah.
The peer pressure was definitely there. So, yep.
All right. Well, that's good. However it came about, it's just good to have you on the
good.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for getting on the team. Jesus.
It took you long enough.
Oh man, me and Chuck have a trip coming up here. As do you. Well, I can't say you guys, but
me. Yeah, not
you've
me.
got
I
a trip
don't
of
get-
a different sort coming up, right?
Yes.
The trip of a lifetime.
Yeah. As I'm spending money that would have taken me to Australia 4 times. But yeah, it's fine.
Oh, did you give that check?
Not yet. But it hurts.
Oh man,
Only because
I
my
feel
bank
like
was
though,
closed.
I feel like though, if Justin would have gotten married later in life, he would have worked his wedding into an Australian trip. Like, well, yeah,
so
honey,
hard.
but we could go get married in Australia, and then and then it would be a fight between the honeymoon and herping.
Oh, I got to tell this story. We on
the
my
wedding, the honeymoon, everything.
Yeah.
So,
Strike out. Strike
Uh-huh.
3. You're done. No more suggesting Australia. If you say Australia one more time,
one more time. Yeah,
this isn't happening. No, we went on our honeymoon to Mexico. What's the place? Somewhere in Mexico where they filmed Predator, and we were walking. We went to the movie set of Predator up in the jungle. Right, it was like a rainforesty type place.
Right.
We rented a Jeep, so we're all cool, driving up the mountain in a Jeep, and we get to this place, and I'm like, let's go check out the jungle. And so Heidi's like, okay. And so I start trudging along, and I look back, and Heidi's clear back there. We've taken like 10 steps, and she's like, she takes a step, and then she looks down and looks over here, looks all around, and then she takes another step. I'm like, oh, this is not gonna go very far. It's
gonna take a while.
How quick you're moving. And she was just like scared of just about anything. And so I said, would you feel more comfortable staying at the set of Predator while I go off into the jungle for just a little while, just a minute, you know? And she's like,
that
okay,
romantic movie Predator.
She's like kind of sigh of relief. And then, so I go off running into the jungle. And this is the first time I've been in a rainforest, you know, so I'm all excited and I'm running around in the jungle looking for stuff, thinking I'm going to see all these snakes and lizards everywhere. And I saw Jack squat, and I come back, and Heidi's like, "Oh, there was a boa constrictor, and it crawled under this, you know, this board over here." And then I looked over here, and there was a snake, and it crawled up the tree. And I'm like, "What the crap?" Yeah. So yeah, she got to see all the wildlife I saw, like a cool bird. I should have stuck with my wife. Damn. That's a lesson for you, Owen. Stick with your wife.
Okay. It was
I thought you were going to say you like just got out of sight and turned around and was like, "Get to the chopper!" And ran off.
You'd be screaming that the entire time. Yeah. I mean, I don't understand.
I finally showed.
If it bleeds, we can find it.
Yeah.
I finally showed that movie to Heidi. Hadn't seen it, and I'm like, "What is up here?" I mean, her family used to watch like every show from the '80s. So I was really shocked, and so we watched it, and yeah.
It's a good one.
Was she like, "I've been there. I saw a boa constrictor right there."
Like, quit rubbing it in. But the kids were a little nonplussed. But I think we watched Prey as well, and that was really
that was good, right?
show. I really liked that one. Yeah.
Is that the new one?
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Have you seen it?
I have not. It's on my list.
Like
it's
the 1700s
or
something. It's really
good.
cool. Yeah, I like that one.
Cool.
But yeah, cool. What's going on with you guys?
Where are you guys going?
We're going to Arizona. We're going back to hang with Dustin.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I had some miles that were about to expire, so I'm like, I might as well go down during the monsoon. And you know, Dustin keeps posting all these great pictures.
Hell yeah!
So I'm like, I got to get back out there. And then Chuck found out. He's like, "Why didn't you invite me, you jerk?" I'm like, I thought I did.
He like randomly brings it up while we're in the middle of a show, and I'm like, whoa, what? Wait a minute. And he's like, "Oh yeah. It's Steve's going." I'm like, Steve Sharp? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, Steve's like north of me. I'm like, unbelievable. He's like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure I invited you." I'm like, no.
Justin built a crew behind your back. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. I can't take a hint.
So we're getting the band back together.
Yeah.
I just couldn't handle the rejection if he said no. You know,
surprise! I invited myself.
So
the older we get, the more frail we get. I get it.
Just too sensitive. So Steve's going to pick up Chuck, and then they're going to drive over. I'm going to fly down. Dustin's going to pick me up from the airport, and then we're going to head out.
Nice.
So
Sweet.
Still trying to decide what to do. It's like that trade-off between driving and, you know, and hitting good spots and stuff. So I really want to see a hognose alive. So and Steve has a good spot for those. So we may go out back towards Bob's place, and wouldn't be bad to.
Another one of us is going to be there, so which means you're going to be tripping over hognose and kick a Gila monster by accident. Is what's going to end up happening.
Between Justin and Dustin, which I am affectionately now calling Justin.
Okay.
Justin and Dustin.
All
Justin.
right, yeah.
We're just the Ustins.
Yeah, that's a good one. We should mob up out there if there's reptiles.
Well, Steve's found twin spots. He's found all sorts of good stuff. So
I know, but it was hard for me to work in the joke about Justin, Dustin, and with Steve. You know what I'm saying? You see how that doesn't
We're just
fit?
going to be carrying Chuck the whole time.
Yeah.
Would you find something?
I'll be sending.
But there will be no Smitty tears out of me.
That's true. You won't complain.
I'll be sending you pictures of coastal carpets and blackheads.
I'm going to be mad at everybody. So okay,
I'll hold you to that, Eric.
Hell yeah!
I sure hope you guys find a lot of stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. My friend Cindy, she's going out to Alice Springs, and I was like, "Oh man, I really need to get back over there." But I don't know if I should announce it on the show, but I am planning a 50th birthday in Australia, so you guys are welcome to come along. Everybody on the screen right now. It's in March of 2025. My 50th.
Okay.
I was going
All
to
right,
say,
yeah,
you're
good,
like
okay.
40,
You got
46
time.
right
You got
now,
time.
right?
Thank you for giving me time.
47.
I might be 52.
We're going to look for these in the gammons.
Oh,
Done.
now you got it.
Sorry, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really done anything down in South Australia, kind of that interior, so I think that would be really cool. And maybe even head up to Alice Springs. I don't know if that's too far to go, but somewhere down there, check out some cool knobtails, check out some, hopefully see some inlands or gammon ranges carpets. That would be the ultimate.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
I was looking on iNaturalist, and March seemed to be a good time, and I'm like, hey, there's a good excuse. I'm turning 50. I got to be there in Australia. So
Has to happen. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And
As the Podfather, I must attend all hosts' birthday parties, regardless of
There
where
you
they're
go.
at.
It's in the contract you guys signed. Yeah, very small.
It is.
Yeah.
I think that goes the other way too.
Contractual
so
obligations.
every birthday, just let me know where we're meeting. We'll do a different spot in Australia.
Justin just shows up to every birthday you have from now.
Where we
Where we going with that?
The only downside is you have to wear a stupid birthday hat the whole time you're over there.
Whatever, man. If I'm finding a gammon
Yeah.
range, I wear the
Oh, my
hat, the
God,
horn, the
yeah.
whole deal.
That'd be great for all the pictures.
Eric found something.
When we find it,
You blow your horn? Yeah.
Eric said, "I'll do
we'll
it
have
in
one of those.
my Podfather regalia if you want. No problem."
What happened to Eric?
Yes.
Oh, died. Heat stroke back there. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Excellent. That sounds good.
Well, anything exciting going on with you guys in the reptile world?
Okay, far too many babies. Just so many
you
babies.
still got
snakes.
eggs, don't you?
I do still have eggs going. I have bredli that are getting ready to hatch probably in a couple weeks here.
Oh, nice.
And then I have a secret project that I was working on that we have to see if that works out, because that is still looking like it might. There's a hint. So,
I think
Yeah.
I caught the hint. Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
So
Cool.
we'll see if that works out. If that works out, then I'm screwed. So, but I am plugging through a ton of different species, several that I've never produced before.
Nice.
So I'm trying to get like the blonde hognose to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I found out baby goldface white lips are just assassins directly out of the egg.
Nice. That's
So
always
which
good-
is cool. But
good
then
to
like
have
my
that.
olives just hatched. My rhinos just hatched. It's pandemonium.
That's awesome.
So-
Yeah,
You're having a killer.
you are killing
season.
it in a most busiest way.
It's the worst year to do it.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
worst year to
right.
do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Okay,
other
babies, I've got to leave
shoes.
on my honeymoon.
Yeah.
You can,
Do well
if
in
you
my
can do
absence.
this year, you can do anything.
Any year, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
God, but
Just make it through. You're young and virile. You're not like us old. And,
I feel
Walk
like
it off, son. Walk it off.
I feel like I was telling Eric the other day. I'm like, I feel like I'm one of the old guys, but I have to remember how much of a young, annoying thing I was when I first got in here. And I'm still that, apparently. Like, when does that stop? Like, yeah.
Never.
oh, it's always good to be young at heart, even if you're not young in body. But, I just had my last eggs hatch out, so I came down and saw a couple little Nephurus wheeler eye, the banded knobtails, running around in
Nice.
the incubator.
Nice.
So, well, in their container in the incubator. But yeah, that was exciting. They're nice looking too. One was really dark, and one
That's-
was kind of lighter.
Do
Two of them, yeah. Both the eggs hatched. The first two clutches, only one of the two eggs hatched. So I don't
Yeah.
know what happened there, but yeah, the last clutch got two. So total of 4 babies. Not bad. So yeah, they're
Nice. Not at all.
They're really cool. I'm really excited. I'm gonna have to hold some back, I think, and see if get at least a pair or something, and try to pair them up with some of the unrelated stuff, and then I like I don't know. There's something about raising stuff up in your own spot, that just they do so much better. And I think it's even more drastic with lizards for some reason. Like
Yeah.
the adults that I got just haven't really performed much. I just had one female that laid all those eggs, so she had 3 clutches. So I don't know, but we'll see how it goes.
yeah, you almost wonder if there's like environmental imprinting that happens when they're really young.
Yeah, yeah, right. I was reading a cool paper by by Shine's group, and they incubated eggs on like sterilized dirt or dirt with like bacteria and stuff like that. And they found the babies that hatched in the dirt that had the bacteria and stuff, they were significantly larger than the babies that hatched on sterile soil, even though like the water content, everything was the same. Yeah, it was really an interesting thing. I mean, I think, I don't know, I'm still just geeked out over Shine's book, but he has like all of his publications on his website. You can go and just look at all the papers he's published. Most of them. I don't know that they're all on there, but he has like a link so you can just open the paper and read it, right there. So check out Rick Shine's his website. But yeah, they just did a big book event in Australia, and everybody got their books signed and stuff like that. I think
nice.
They were talking about it on the Aussie Herp podcast. So yeah, cool stuff. That would have been cool to see.
Our nemesis.
Our nemesis. Yeah,
that book was cool until I got this other book that showed up in the mail, and then I threw that one in.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. The other
don't know if you should do
Shine
that.
book's over there. Yeah,
Sorry, Dr. Shine.
it's like on a
Dr.
table behind his
Julander
chair.
has taken your spot.
Yeah,
That is quite a compliment.
that is. That's too very too kind. But yeah, that's really nice of you. But I don't think I agree.
Of course you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost done with Shine's book, and it's just it's really
fantastic.
Well done.
Yeah, it's really good.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, got my brain wheels turning, that's for sure. But yeah, anything else going on? You guys just itching to fight?
I mean, constantly.
Yeah.
Have you
All
listened
the
to
time.
NPR? Of course.
I don't think we ever fight. Do we ever fight?
I'm under
We're about to
contract to
find
saying no.
You'll give each other a hard time here and there, but I don't think I've ever seen you guys
100%.
fight, man.
Especially if Owen has to argue the side of the morphs and the rare species are a good thing.
That would be awesome.
That hurts so bad because I have to somehow channel, turn off my brain. Yeah.
Look, his eyes twitching already.
Yeah.
All right, now I guess the question is, do you want to have any help from us, or are we just here to referee?
Sure.
I mean, you can jump in
For the house.
Which part? Which part?
He doesn't yet. You can't give him.
Maybe we'll just kind of ask some helpful follow-up questions, and
That
we'll
works.
let you guys fight.
And then jump in as you feel.
I don't want to get in
if you-
between you two.
I mean, it's like don't stick your hand between two fighting dogs.
Exactly.
Like, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah. All right. So, who wants to call the coin flip? Okay. So I guess we need to introduce the topic. I guess you guys don't need to introduce yourselves, because if anybody doesn't know who you are, then they won't be listening to this podcast. So,
how'd you get here?
Well,
so we're going to talk about if it's a good thing or not so good thing to have a morph show up of a rare or less commonly kept species. So
Horrible.
I think somebody has an opinion.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
No, I think that's kind of how this maybe came about. There was some discussion in the chat about was it a Halmahera, or no? It was a
Yeah, it
This is the albino Halmahera.
Yes, albino
Tracy,
Halmahera
yeah.
that was found, and
Chuck's like, burn it.
Allegedly.
and Chuck's like, kill it. And certain other people were like, nah, it's cool. Come on, let it have a chance, And
Bring you to a bar neck.
and so then,
Yeah. Exactly. Or anything with a cloaca.
See, I love it because it's very easy to
I
just set
remember
off
that
Chuck,
episode.
and it's just fun to do.
Chuck loves that phrase. It's just such a great.
Yeah, it grinds my cloaca.
All right, so
We
who's
smell our own. I know where Chuck's at. He knows where I'm at. It's fine.
calling it?
I give it to the Podfather.
Okay.
He's got to call it.
That
because
makes a lot of
if-
sense.
If I do, people
I guess
call
the
cheating.
question is, do I help the Podfather? No, he doesn't.
I think,
need
first off, I demand
I
witnesses.
say heads.
It is heads. The Podfather wins. So now comes the fun part. Which side do you want to
Which
take?
side do you want to debate, knowing what's going to happen?
Well, Owen,
Yeah.
friend of mine,
Just do it. Just rip the Band-Aid off.
I'm going to take the side of the morphs are bad for a rare species because I gave all my morphs to you, so clearly you're the morph guy now, and I'm the non-morph guy.
This seems like some sort of years-long laid trap that you're dropping in right now. And
I feel like he didn't even just. I don't think he just pulled the Band-Aid off. I think he just hot waxed your whole beard and ripped it off, dude.
He's rubbing salt into his wounds.
Well, this is what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Now you have to argue the other
Yeah,
side.
Eric definitely plays the long con, and it's just not good.
Hey, the coin.
Welcome
the
to Fight
coin
Club,
decided.
gentlemen.
Yep, the coin
Yep.
made the call. All right, Eric.
And I'm going to defer to Owen.
All right. You chuckifying him. They're chucking him.
I'm checkifying it.
All right. Owen, the floor is yours.
Shit. All right.
I will mute my mic. Go ahead, sir.
Crap. All right. All my thoughts are now. I have to be like, no, betrayal.
You got to turn off that
obviously,
part.
when it comes to popularity in species all in themselves, we can see time and time again, the popularity has come through followed by morphs. And I would say probably one of the best examples of that is that carpet pythons were definitely a fringe species in the hobby until morphs like jaguar, zebra, and other things that could be combined and worked with came about. So that kind of renaissance that was Morelia of the last 10, 15 years is due to morphs. So I would say the biggest thing and the biggest key of morphs in rare species is that it does bring some people who maybe thought about dipping their toe into a new species. It kind of gives them almost like a reason to.
Yeah.
And I would say that's why morphs are good, and it doesn't hurt me at all.
How are they going to know how cool they are if they don't keep them, right?
Exactly.
You know, no
It's
matter
not like
how
they
they
can
come
just-
into it.
It's not like they can just look at the snake and admire it for what it is. It needs to have some flashy colors. Otherwise, what are we doing here?
All right. Sounded a little half-hearted there.
It hurts so bad.
I feel like watching Eric right now and the look on his face is Arnold Schwarzenegger setting up all the traps in Predator for the Mac and Wookiee to walk into.
Go ahead. Drip
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm out. Okay.
First of all, how dare you, sir? The renaissance of carpet pythons has to do with morphs and not I don't know,
objection.
a podcast called Morelia Python Radio, a book called The Complete Carpet Python.
The complete carpet python that had a morph section in it because we needed to make sure that everybody knew about
that
the
was like
morphs.
10 pages.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Please continue.
Why do I think that morphs are bad for a rare species? I think probably my thought would be that with a rare species, typically they're difficult to breed or they're wild caught and you have to get them established, and it takes somebody that really cares about that species, like Chuck with Almaharas. And I just think if the morphs get involved, it sort of dirties the pool, especially when that animal's trying to become established. I guess the older I get, the more I have moved away from morphs and look at the natural variability. You take something like a carpet python, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I wonder if carpet pythons hatch out and it's always the odd one in that clutch. Mm-hmm. And it just looks cool, and it could be nothing, it could be something, who cares? But it's just like, wow, look at this one, it's really a smoker. And I don't know if I really see that in ball pythons that are morph heavy. It seems like they're just worried about making the morph, refining the morph, but just replicating that, that color or pattern.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem to matter
So
how nice the morph is. As long as it has the gene, that's what they're excited about. Yeah.
And I know that because I've been guilty of that. I mean, when I was breeding zebra carpets, they were dirt ugly at the beginning when they first came in, they were just dirt ugly. I was surprised at how fast they turned around into, you know, these yellow and black things you see today. They're amazing. But, you know, I don't know. To me, it was just at that point, I've been in that mindset where it's just like, oh, I'm going to just try to make one of these. And I think it really just comes back to money, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of the I was talking to Scott Eiper about this, where we were talking about the Jags, and we were talking about the whole like do YouTube people do the thing, you know, like their videos for themselves, or are they trying to promote a species? And obviously they love reptiles, or they did love reptiles at some point. They must have some sort of love for reptiles. But I wonder if at some point the money becomes more a part of it. And the thing I related to was the Jag carpet. And for me, I had to get rid of the Jag carpet, even though I thought if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be somebody in the carpet python community. I wouldn't have stuff to sell on a table that people would like. So it led me to find, even though in my head I knew that for me it wasn't right. So, and then that's the other thing about if morphs are bad, like, I don't know, those genes are kind of broken, right? They're not supposed to be like that. And you're like, have this rare species that you're introducing broken genes into. Doesn't make sense to me. Floor's yours, Macabookie.
I object to half of what he said because it's devastating to my case, okay? So I don't approve. I would say that the other good thing about morphs is that, like I said, it does gain in the popularity, so people might be working with the rare species. And hopefully with the idea of breeding the rare species more in captivity, like let's say olive pythons that only have one morph, albino. But because some people might be chasing an albino olive python, they're breeding more and more and more. Now, obviously, importation is illegal from Australia. Can't do it. But in other species where there's maybe one morph or something like that, where there is importation, having a captive bred population does help with not having too many things be imported, ? So there's that whole thing, is that it does also help with that. And it also does kind of lock the species in as something that can be in U.S. herpetoculture and might be a little bit harder to say not be, because a lot of times with a rare species, if there's only maybe one or two guys breeding them, if something happens to their collection or if they just stop, then it's gone, like Dunai and things like that, where we have to bring them back into the country because nobody gave a damn. So that's where having some kind of morph project and, like, again, increase in popularity could help keep animals in U.S. herpetoculture.
Yeah, look at what happened when Bert Langewerf died. I mean, you couldn't find an Aussie water dragon to save your life for a bit, and then people were like, "Wait, we gotta breed these. They're valuable," you know. And so he'd just kind of taken care of that, and then when he went away, they went away too. So yeah, even with no morphs, that's a problem. Yeah, so like, or there were no morphs in Aussie water dragons in U.S., so that could be part of it. That's a decent point there.
All right, I'm coming back strong at you, man. Damn it. You said about wild caught stuff like that, rare stuff. Yeah. Right? Think about the granite carpet, the only wild caught carpet python that we can get legally in the States. And what did we do to that?
Bred it so bad it didn't have eyeballs. Yes, go on. I don't get your point.
I'm just worried about that the idea of the morph itself comes before putting the species in captivity the correct way.
We'll breed the hell out of anything. Look at rough scale pythons. Doesn't matter.
And look at the alleged hybridization of albino variegata, right? Like, remember all the Harrisoni, allegedly all of the one male or whatever, they got bred to all those Harrisoni.
Anything with the cloaca. Well,
because they couldn't wait. They couldn't wait for the head. I mean,
is that only a problem with? Is that only a problem with things with subspecies though? Would that be the same thing as, say, the Halmahera? Unless they're making hybrids, you know.
I mean, I think unfortunately what it clearly demonstrates is people, when they see the chance to make money, will make bad decisions. And that is unfortunately the primary driver in the whole issue. So
yeah,
I won't say much more because I think Eric's got plenty of points more to make
true.
about this.
But that is a pretty big.
I certainly have a lot to say about this, but it's not my.
Yeah, Chase.
It's not my fight.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
I was going to say, since Owen, you took a side for me, I'll make a point for you is that, and maybe you kind of said this already, but like, I guess the idea of a morph would mean that maybe more people would be interested in it, which mean that there would be more people working with it in captivity, which would possibly mean that more people would, establish those rare animals in captivity. Did you say that?
Yes. Yeah.
And I would say, to that point, my Traciae are pretty big now. They're good. They're every bit of 8 feet. And could you imagine an 8 foot albino Traciae? It would be a stunning looking animal. I would admit that, it would, but I just think the rest of that is kind of the problematic part.
Well, I don't know. I don't get into the albinos like a lot of people do. I just think they kind of washes everything out, and unless it's like a carpet. Albino carpets are kind of bright.
Yeah, I was gonna say Variegata doesn't do that.
That picture of the scrub didn't do a thing for me. I'd much rather have the normal wild type pattern than. Yeah.
How do we feel about albino olives? Because I feel like that's everybody's thing, where it's like either you love an albino olive or you're like, because it's like it has no pattern, which is kind of what I think a lot of people who are into albino Darwins love, is that there's colors, there's patterns, there's flashy everywhere. Where it's just like if it's one solid color, you're like, okay.
Well, it's already one like solid milk. Color, so it's either white or brown.
I feel like
you got two
white or
brown.
I feel like that's exactly right. It's one solid color, and so what you're left with is this snake super cool? Yes, the snake's super cool. So whether you like the white one or the brown one, you're still left with a snake that's super cool.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like that's a no lose example there.
Right.
But you don't see. I mean,
you don't see them. Why don't you see them?
Yeah.
They're here.
Well,
why aren't they produced?
Why
What's
not?
going on with that?
Olives are hard.
Come on, somebody spill the beans. What's happening?
Yeah. I mean, plenty of normals
olives are harder than expected.
No, I mean from the get go, they've been very difficult. I think that's a kind of a point for Eric, is that that these morphs, when everything's focused around the morph, like you were saying, then it kind of just that's the focus, and then the normal outbreeding and different things you try to do in a normal project when you have just regular wild type animals ceases to occur, and then you're just focused on that one morph, and so you're breeding everything to the morph. You're not breeding normals anymore. You're breeding all your females to that albino male because you paid $20,000 for it or whatever. So, and
if you look at like ball pythons, there was so much importation of and people went through and sifted through all the weird shit that was coming in that was genetic mutations, but still out in wild population that was genetically diverse, right? So you had this genetically diverse thing rather than a freaking pair of snakes that came in that were related to each other from the same clutch, and then bred and bred and bred and bred and bred.
Yeah, but you still breed to the offspring. You're still breeding them back to the parent to produce more of those morphs.
Right, but
and
I
you're
guess
not
what I'm saying is,
and you're focusing in any deleterious genes that may have come with that, mutation. So.
I get what you're saying, but you're also talking about ball pythons, which have morph, all these different morphs. So that's all the ball python mutations aren't interrelated. Where carpets are, you're talking about wider versus much narrower, right? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but now ball pythons are turning a trash species into gold. We're talking about turning gold
Whoa.
species.
Whoa, we're turning it into trash, are we?
There are
I
some
thought you would agree with
8-year-old
that
who
one,
wants
Owen.
Damn.
Royal pythons.
Listen, I'm on this side right now. I cannot tell you what I would think about.
Oh, that's a good
Ask
point.
me tomorrow.
Fair enough.
Like,
Fair enough.
There's 8-year-olds everywhere trying to punch you through the mic right
Yeah,
now.
Jesus.
Yeah.
No, I mean, nobody wanted to work with ball pythons back in the day, and
No,
they were
that's-
very
no,
difficult
that-
to work
no.
with too. They were hard to breed and everything. So
They were
I guess
terrible.
that
They were
works
mean.
to that works to Owen's advantage to show that something that's difficult to breed and nobody wanted to work with, and all of a sudden there's morphs, and now everybody, any 8-year-old can breed them, like Chuck said. So
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's true, but look at, and again, I don't have my finger on the pulse of the ball python hobby, but I feel like we take the reptiles we work with. Let's just say pythons for the moment. I feel like we take them for granted. For me, I think that I was always driven to look at morphs simply because I had, I kept them in a rack on paper, on plain paper. So I needed something to pizzazz it. But it wasn't until I started herping that you start to see the animal in its environment. I mean, think about those rattlesnakes. And think about their, just the environment that they're in, and like they are matched perfectly for that environment. Thinking about Breadlie in Alice Springs, and that, just all those things come into play. And I just think that as somebody that has been through the side of it of trying to be the flashy morph person, first of all, I don't know. My opinion is that it's an endless. It's just a pyramid scheme that ends with you being the loser. At least that's how I felt. It was just like no matter how much money I spent to be at the top of the list, I was still always behind everybody else because I was trying to be patient with the, raising them up and feeding them correctly and not power feeding, whereas everybody else in that market was sort of rushing to be the person that produced X,
Eric, do you feel like when you stop kind of participating in the morph game, however you want to say it, that your goals changed? Instead of
100%.
chasing that next or whatever, you're like looking at it because
I think for me, what has always been is I've always been a natural history person. Just like to me, just the idea of a snake having no legs, no arms, and being able to survive and eat things with its face and kill things with its face. It sheds once in a while. I don't know. There's just so many cool things about these snakes that we work, or just reptiles in general, that I think that we take for granted. And I think that the morph thing, at least for me, blinded me to those things because the only thing I was concerned about was making XX combo.
Hasn't the Shine book just really awakened that in? Like, that's what it's done for me. Thinking about how cool reptiles are and how amazing Australia is, and just crazy stuff that he discovered, and just we didn't know this stuff before he came along and said somebody needs to look into this in Australia because Australia is different. They have that just severe weather, and I don't know. I just have gained so much more appreciation for snakes in the wild surviving. Who cares about a paint job when you've got a snake in the wild surviving? It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, and I kind of. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think I mentioned this on one of the earlier fight clubs, but like when you hatch out carpets, non-morph carpets, it's like you get nice animals, and then you get that nice spectrum from like the really awesome stuff that's right out of the egg that you're like, oh, that's going to be a nice animal, right? And
yes.
All the way down to like, oh yeah, that's just a brown, ugly carpet right now. And then 6 months to a year down the line, you get it again. And if you hold on to all of them, the ones that you were like, oh, that's crap, turn into like, you're like blowing your mind, right? And how many times have you sold a snake that you were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I sold that. That thing turned out to be one of the nicest ones of the clutch. Like just that whole, like, that whole like just process of it is so cool with carpets. And I don't know that you get that necessarily with morphs as much. Like certainly, like one of my variegata albinos is much nicer than the other one, but that's like pretty obvious, like right out of the, like it doesn't change where, with a more wild type color change, you kind of see it more. I don't know. Maybe that's not an accurate thing to say, but that's kind of been what I've noticed.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. I think the other thing with morphs that just popped in my head when you're saying this is just then there's the other part of it is the political part of it, right? And to me, I think this is what turned me off to morphs more than anything. It's like if you buy a morph from said person, then, you're now on said person's team, and then there's the other person that has, you know what I mean? And it just becomes this bullshit. Yeah. And I to me, it loses the whole, the whole idea of what we're doing this for.
Yeah, it becomes a pyramid scheme rather than a working with cool animals thing. Yeah. All right, Owen.
Yeah.
What you got
for us now?
It's so hard right now. It's like, 'cause I'm like, yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Shit. No, it's like, I would say that it does give you something to chase, something to have fun with, a project to build. You can start with the smallest little thing of your own and decide that you're going to breed this animal for this thing, this color, this thing, that thing. And you can do that. And then as you get generations in, you see the fruits of your labor through the morphs. I started in 2009 with 2 original caramel carpets that I got because some guy bought them and decided he didn't want them. And I picked them up, and that earned me a phone call from Nick Mutton, having never heard who I was. And he's like, "How did you get these? Tell me now." So there was that whole thing. But through that of just breeding those animals to each other, to animals that I had, to animals that I picked up, I'm starting to produce now my own super caramels and super caramel jaguars and various caramel tigers, things like that I've been working at to get down to a point where I have my first super caramel Exanic that I hatched out this year. And she's stunning. She's everything I ever asked for when it came to that kind of a project. But then there's also the small projects that are important to me. Nobody cares about them, and I don't give a damn. I fell in love with tiger jags when I was in college. So I am on a mission to create the most perfect tiger jag, in my opinion. And that is what fuels this project.
I already gave it to you.
Yes. Yes, you did. She's over there. Okay. Now I'm going to take her and do other stuff. Like that's
okay.
The next level.
But there's that whole thing is that you can build these things and it gives you something to shoot for. And there's something in the back of your head of just producing an animal that at one point was years away. And you finally get it, and it's got those colors that you wanted, and it's got that pattern that you wanted, and you're now like 4 generations in, and you've hatched its grandfather, and you saw something in that animal that you kind of decided it needed to stay and tweak, and it is definitely a huge payoff.
I definitely agree that, like, if you get the red gene or the tiger gene or the hypo gene, genes, whatever, you know what I'm saying, involved, it can, really turn an animal up to 10 very, very, very quickly. So it definitely cuts down some of the work that needs to be done to refine it. I think that's a pretty unarguable point.
Yeah, definitely instant gratification goes along with morphs.
Yeah. Look at you, always fucking.
And then you get the morphs, and then you get the YouTube, and then you get the money, and then you get the power, and then you get the women. Like that's how it works, right? Yeah.
I thought then.
Damn it.
I thought then you go to what is it called, Animal Con, or what's the?
They wouldn't let me in. It was weird.
That's okay.
I went there. Yeah.
I think anybody who didn't go in and didn't get the free door prize.
I said, do you know my voice? Close your eyes. Listen, it's me. Let me in. Didn't work.
They turned you away.
I can only go by your voice.
Exactly,
because you're frozen, Alan.
That's why I don't say many things when
There's
I'm flying
no visual
incognito in
element to
reptile
you.
shows.
You've only got an
Yep.
audio element.
If you click on your camera back and forth, I've been doing it the whole time because I keep freezing too. I don't like looking at your bitter face. Like
It happens.
that's
Hey,
There you go.
Yay.
there we go.
All right.
Okay. Well, I feel like Owen, I will give you props.
Good.
You approached the morph thing way better than I did because you picked a project and you worked with it and you're still working with it and you've refined it to where I would dare say that you have probably some of the best caramels in the States, in my opinion. That's just
It's
because
you've seen the shit I hide from everybody else. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen it.
I've let
seen
you
the stuff
come in
that you
and
got.
go through tubs. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I think that reptiles, me and Rob Stone were talking about this, that requires patience. I think that establishing an animal, getting them to eat, getting them to breed and getting the babies going and all those things requires a tremendous amount of patience. I mean, you're looking at bringing in, if we're talking about, let's say, like a wild caught Halmahera scrub, I don't know, Chuck, how long did it take you to establish them? Years, right?
Years.
I mean,
I got them. I got them in 2011. So
right.
yeah.
So I just think that like the morph thing, it speeds it up, and I think that like I said, I think if you're doing a project or you're doing a specific project and you're not trying to to me the morph thing became too enticing, like it was too tempting to just like, oh, I can be a carpet python breeder and that's what I'm going to do, and I don't have to go to work anymore, and this is going to be great.
It's selling a lifestyle.
And I don't know. And then I think the only other part that I would push back is what happens when the morph isn't cool. I mean, we've seen this over and over and over and over again, right? Where, you get in this albino Halmahera scrub, all right? Okay, it's beautiful, whatever. We can go back and forth on whether it's nice or not. You get it established, it's nice, and then it becomes,
It's been done. Been there, done
so now
that.
that rare species becomes, and it just disappears into the ether of the reptile hobby, where some 60-year-old dude that has had them since 2006 is working with them, and he's the only person, and nobody knows because they're not on Facebook and they're not on social media and all that stuff. So I just worry about what happens then. Does the species it loses its cool? I mean, think about when we used to listen to reptile radio, right? And they would talk about like a bumblebee ball python was like the pinnacle of what you could do with ball pythons. Have you seen anybody that ever talks about a bumblebee ball python? They haven't even refined a bumblebee ball python. I don't see them anymore. I don't know. Maybe they're there, maybe, and I just don't see them. But
Not without
I don't
four
think
other
anybody
genes
cares
with
anymore.
them. Yeah.
They're folded into the morph pancake by now.
But it's also
And it's just-
the spider is kind of similar to the jaguar, so it's lost favor with people. They don't want to have a ball python that spins
fair
around.
enough.
But yeah, I mean, name any morph and you got that's the
Sure.
case. Unless it's like one of the key ingredient morphs that seem to be in everything, yellow belly or fire, whatever.
Yes.
They're
Right.
in every combo. But yeah.
And you do have a few people that, like I think Justin Kabilka, I think he does it right, but he's not following a trend. He's setting the trend, right?
yeah,
How many people can set a trend?
They're the ones making
you're in
the
a
money.
different
the ones that are setting the
Correct.
trend.
Yeah, you have to be
You're
the
trying to
Justin
keep up.
Kabilka or the Paul Harris in order to be the relevant,
And that could easily not
and
work too. I mean, you could try to set a
Yeah,
trend,
that's-
and you could wind up with something that everybody goes, "Who cares about that?" Or you could
Right.
get lucky and predict it correctly, like Justin Kabilka did, and everybody's drooling over your animals.
Multiple
and then you got to
times,
keep
right,
doing
yeah.
that. So the pressure's
Yeah.
on
Yes.
you to stay in the forefront and keep refining what you have. So you're always chasing that next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, that's 100%. Like it feels like you're always chasing that next thing, and it never becomes about learning about what makes this animal tick. Like
Yeah, you care less about the animal and more about the paint job on the animal.
Yeah.
That's a. Oh, well, I have a question for Owen to maybe I don't know lead you in a direction, but what do you think about like people working together? That if somebody's got this rare morph or a rare species, and all of a sudden this morph pops up and they kind of work together. Do you think that those kind of things foster people, working and networking with each other?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a great example of that is that Will Leary had the Jags and Jason Balin had the Tigers, and they had to work together in order for us to get the Tiger Jags, which led us down that whole path. And this was prior to granite zebras, things like that popping up. So that was the thing. It was that, that working together, that forming that community or that partnership just for that one project helped bring it several steps forward. And I would say that when a morph does pop out, it kind of forces us to figure out the animal, because anybody who just has a species can get lucky and get a clutch once, and then God help you if something weird happened and popped out of those eggs, because now you have to repeat it, and you have to repeat it with this mutant. So it does cause you to go into a deeper dive into what caused this, what did that. And I mean, there are species that have no morphs that we still haven't figured out yet. And I would just say that that's mainly because some of those species.
No morphs?
No, not because there's no morphs, because some of those species are so high priced that only a certain number of people are working with them. Yeah. So things like morphs increase popularity, and then it also spreads out who's working with the animals. And you got more hands. You have more, like Justin was talking about, you have more of a community. You have more people thinking about it, toying with it, messing with it. If Bowl and I were $1,000 a piece, we could all be we'd all have a pair and see what happens. Like, it's one of those things. So just because there's a morph involved doesn't necessarily mean that we're not working with it or not figuring it out. So.
Well, Balin and Leary worked well together. Did Anthony Caponetto?
Don't.
Did he work
well with anybody?
That's not what I'm talking about. Are there Tiger Jags? Then that's where we stop talking, okay? Yeah.
I think carpets were a little bit different though back then. No, I mean they were. There was no. I think that's sort of.
Hey, we had
really
tri-stripes and we had gray-looking ones. Okay,
exactly.
Like that was
the good old days.
There was. Oh yes, I know. Let's all go back to the MP days where we can all sit there and be like, "What the hell is this?"
Well, I
I'm
think
sorry,
too,
what were we
like
talking about?
if there is an expanded interest due to a morph, you also have maybe an increase. If it's available, an increase in importation, because right now they kind of like importers just go, oh, nobody cares about that species. They're not bringing in Halmaharas. They could be bringing them in. They could be, very
well, they're
very
bringing
commonly.
They're bringing them in.
Yeah,
they're bringing them in.
I mean, how many? Like just a couple.
Well, not a lot,
here
because
and
I don't think
there.
they're. I don't think
they're kind of a specialized thing. But if there was a morph and people were all excited about them, then that would start bringing in the imports, which could be good and bad. I mean, that could put more diverse
I got two examples around this, and I'll throw these at Eric and let him think it through and just respond the way he wants. So I think about this in a Somalia kind of way, right? So you think about Clastolepis, right? Clastolepis has had Exantics since Yasser was doing it way back in the day.
Yep.
And then you have Marcel Hawkins, hatched out Exantics. So we have probably no more or no less Exantics in Clastolepis than we had 15, 20 years ago, right? So there's an example where it hasn't gotten out of hand. It's just kind of coexisted. But how often have we seen Clastolepis bred? On the same token, Nada.
Hey, tell the listeners what the species names are referring to, the common names.
Okay, so Clastolepis would be the Moluccan scrub python, and then
Nada.
Somalia Nada is going to be the Tannenbar python, right? Bred a little bit more frequently, but it has a patternless form. And how many pattern Nada do you see anymore?
I like the pattern ones, the non-exanic pattern ones.
Still fairly rarely bred, but you don't see the pattern ones anymore. So I think those are two examples that kind of hold in my hand the two opposing, like, okay, you can see it work, but you could see the problem too, right? You agree with that?
Yeah. My first question is, if you have a Moluccan scrub python, why the hell do you want to take the yellow out of the most prettiest
Amen.
python? I
They're
mean,
the best looking scrub.
I will concede that.
I don't understand what it is about human beings that when you see, again, it's like you take it for granted. We're taking for granted this beautiful, there's lavender in the tail. I mean, and me and you have had multiple Moroccan scrubs. You know what I mean? Like, tell me that they're not one of the prettiest pythons around. I mean, they're just hands down and now the coolest thing about it, you're taking it away. Why? Because you think it's cooler? Because now you can say, I have an exantic one. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make a connection to me. The other thing I would say, and maybe this is just a different way to think about this, is that we're always under the gun from animal rights people and all this stuff. And I think that a lot of times, and even like if we wanted to, work hand in hand with, say, the academic side of herpetoculture, I think that a lot of times the morphs turn those academics off because they're like, do you even care about the snake? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, have you ever picked up a paper that I've read about the species that you're sitting there? I don't know. It just seems like we're not going to be doing anything together because in their mind, I think that they're thinking that we're looking at it as just a way to make money. And I don't know, man. I got to be honest. I think a lot of times that's the driving force behind it. It's either ego or money, and it negates the whole species thing. Like, I'm not anti-morph at all. Like, I think there's beautiful ones and beautiful examples, but like the perfect example is the Moluccan scrub. Like, why do you have to do anything to it? Retics are another one. Why do you have to do anything to a retic?
I've seen some pretty crazy retic morphs that look amazing. Yeah.
Because I want a lavender 18-foot torpedo coming to kill me. That's why.
Just breed it to a super dwarf and you're good.
There you go. And then it's smaller.
So let's say you got a clutch of Moluccans that's hatched every 5 to 10 years, right? And half of that clutch is axanthic, and somebody goes on to get 2 pairs of axanthics, and those happen to just be great breeders. And the rest of them go to people who just don't quite hit it, or they're in the wrong part of the country. And then all of a sudden what's being pumped out is axanthics. How quick could that go bad for the captive, Moluccan scrub pythons?
Terrible.
Around there, right? And that's kind of my point. And that was where Tannenbars, I feel like, the pattern versus the patternless. Those things bred, and they went out. People bred those, and now that's all you see. You don't really see very many patterned animals anymore. So it's like that's where my concern would be around, like, the Tracy A albinos. Like, what would happen if somebody just got lucky and everyone else just struck out with the more, wild type forms? Like, could it tip the balance, and all of a sudden, 50 to 75% of the captive bred population is albinos? And how fast would that screw everything up? And if it's pure, does it screw everything up? I guess that's the other part of it too.
And if you can keep getting them out of the wild, does it screw it up?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's fair too.
I think the point I'm going to regroup back to the retic thing is sort of the idea with the morphs is that, that we're so and again, I'm going to say the same thing about green trees, right? We're so we have to make a black, and it's got to be black, and it has to have blue, and it's like, man, I don't know anybody that thinks that a green reptile is not cool. Like, I mean, I don't know. When I was a kid, a green reptile was where it was at, and now again, you're trying to change this, and I don't know if you're changing. Like, I don't know if people's intentions. I'm sure there are people out there that their intentions are good, or maybe they just like different things, and that's great, you know. But like, I don't know. I just am afraid that those things get lost. You know, the species of retics right now. They're. I don't think that there's any kind of work done or anything where they've sort of divided all of them up. But I mean, you can guess that they're kind of going to at least be subspecies, and now they're all bred together. Why? Because we wanted a morph, and the idea that you're somehow going to make the big flashy thing. I don't know. I don't know. Just. Sorry, Owen.
That's right. You're giving me time to gather my thoughts.
I am. I'm trying.
I would say that
I know this is tough for you.
it is. It's so hard.
At least you're not just throwing it, you know. Like
I'm trying not to, I'm trying to at least make some arguments, but some of my arguments are just becoming morph bad? ? Like it's But I would say that a lot of the times a morph or a mutation ends up getting the brunt for what we do to the reptile market. You know, we create the scarcity. So in the one thing where, let's say, all the axanthic, you know, Moluccans are produced, then what would happen? You see a shift, like you saw with Nada, where all of a sudden the normal pattern ones become the ones that people want, and they get put up on that pedestal. So the normal Moluccans would have bumped up there and then that. And also we've seen projects where all of a sudden there's a rush on a species for no fucking reason other than that somebody put a picture of it out on TikTok. So like a couple years ago, I could throw a rock and hit 12 Macklot's pythons that nobody freaking wanted. Now, good luck finding them. Like you're and that's just the way it goes. Same thing with black-faced white-lip. And it wasn't because a morph popped up. It just became these species had some sort of inherent value over others. So it's not necessarily a morph thing.
Do you think it's the rarity thing? Like that?
What is rarity?
Morphs are different. Morphs are, you know, like I want this thing that nobody or something that's different from what everybody else has. And then when you overbreed the morphs and everyone has them, they're like, fuck this. Everybody has these things. I
There's
don't care
that part
anymore,
of it,
you know?
but we also create rarity. Like
I blame
the
NPR.
people over in it. Yeah, well, exactly, all the time. But the people who live over in Wetar have no problems finding Wetar pythons. We do. Yeah. That's why they're all of a sudden on a pedestal, because that's the way it is. I would say that there are certain python species that are considered rare that are bred way more often in the country than most colubrid species, because that's not what we don't want that one. Well, what's the difference? So I would say that there's that whole thing is not necessarily a morph doesn't necessarily make or break the project. I think we make or break the project because we suck. And numerous times we've torpedoed projects for no reason. And, you know, the Macklot's python did have a morph and the thing died. And they're still climbing up in price and things like that. No morph at all.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, wait. Sorry.
Yeah, the fickle.
I have to agree with you on that one.
Yes, thank you.
Point Owen.
This is where we.
I got one. It's like 1 to 12. It's like, God damn it.
Owen's hoping there's a buzzer somewhere that all of a sudden we have to switch sides. Like,
and now you have to go, yes, my time has come. And then Justin's like, that's all we have for today.
I wonder. I think it has something to do with human nature, right? We want what we don't have, right? So
And when we get
it doesn't matter if
like,
it's.
Yeah,
you know, I think for me, I was always addicted to the chase, right? And to me, it was always about, oh man, I got to get this and I got to get that. And, you know, I mean, Owen, you saw it. You saw my book that was planned out for like 10 years. Like,
yeah, I know.
You know.
Most of them are here. Like it's
yeah.
What got
exactly.
you out of the chase?
Herping. Herping. Yep. That's what it was.
I think it was a combination of him going out and doing herping and going to Australia, and then he moved and took that year off. And he's like, oh, I got my fixes by like going outside and finding shit, not from hatching eggs. And that's where I lost him. After that, it was like, he's gone. And I've slowly, I've been giving him a lot of giving him a lot of line, and then this year I've been slowly bringing him back in. So yeah.
I think everybody goes through phases, and what they think is cool and what they want to do, and and they like this thing and whatnot. But the thing that's been consistent my entire second run of herpetoculture has been carpet pythons. I have never not had a carpet
and don't you
because to me they're my favorite
don't
snake.
You find too when you find it in the wild, it makes you appreciate what you have a lot more than you did before, and especially if you were just chasing it for a morph, you'd be like, wait a second, this is a cool animal, look at this thing.
Yes.
There's something about herping that just really changes you.
I think too, if I'm being honest, it's not about, to me, it's not about saying that tubs are bad or whatever, right? I understand why people do it, and I still have animals in tubs. It's not, I'm anti that, and I'm tired of that debate. But the thing of it is again, being a natural history guy, I can't tell you, man. I sit there and watch that diamond python that I have up in my living room. I don't know. I feel like it's my little chunk of Australia that I just get to peek at. That's why I got the monitors. I don't ever care about breeding monitors. I mean, if it happens, it's cool. Whatever. It is what it is. But that's not my goal. I love just sitting here, editing podcasts and watching them do what they do, It's like I'm sitting there in the Kimberley watching these little monitors just run around and do the thing, and, where they're at in certain times of day and how, certain things that I do affect them. I just feel like when I was keeping that way, I could breed and I was successful doing it, but I wasn't in tune with my animals, if that makes sense, And I used to get very, I think Keith McPeak had a big influence on me. You guys had an influence on me as well. It's like, as you're herping, you start talking about stuff. Rob's been telling me this for years. He's like, what are you doing, man? Just cut your collection down, put them in bigger enclosures. It's the greatest thing ever. And he did it, and I fought him, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to get rid of my Jags first. And he's like, what are you doing, man? Get rid of those things. Why do you have them? And it's just like, why do I have them? Do I have them because I think I have to have them, or do I have them because I want to have them? And it really was because I thought I had to, right? So
I think we all go through that, the kind of the Pokemon, I got to collect them all kind of thing, And once you do collect them all, you're like, I've got way too many animals, and you whittle it down to the ones that really bring you joy, and you really, like whether there's a morph or no morph or whatever. Yeah.
This is a bunch of pokey bullshit.
pretty much.
But don't get me. I mean, but there's some great looking morphs out there, right? Yeah. If you have a morph in your collection and that's what gets you off, and do that. I don't think it's necessarily like morphs are bad. I think it's just if you get consumed in it and you're, it's about why you're here, right? Or what got you into this in the first place. And if it was morphs that got you into it, cool. But it doesn't have to always be that way. If if it changes, that's okay too, right? I guess, when you talk about rare stuff, there's implications to that we're not going to have big problems. I mean, relatively speaking, with carpet pythons, they're fairly established. You know what I mean? I don't know. And
I'd ask Owen to talk about, how many people come to your table and want the ugliest thing there. Even if it's not a true morph or a true, genetic simply inherited mutation, they still want the selectively bred, most beautiful things, right? I mean, so morphs do drive interest in things because they want to see the best example. They don't want to just see the average muddy, ugly thing, And I would say too, if you're out in the wild and you're seeing, multiple, say you see 20 carpet pythons, you're going to be probably most excited about the one that's the brightest or has the best pattern or something. So morphs do gain, get your excitement up a little more, I would say. I think that's definitely a point for morphs, or at least selectively bred animals, the nicer looking ones that...
I would say with my experience at a table, you set up your collection and I've got everything on the table. We're talking carpets.
Literally everything.
Yeah, there's a kitchen sink over there. Like, yeah,
Clubrids, clubroids.
Yep. So I would say the carpets are over here, but then like you have the mad hogs and mad hogs, Chinese king rats, things like that. Their value or people who are interested in them are interested in them because of what they are, not because of color or anything like that. Yeah. So that's their value, and that's what people come for that. But carpets and other species that do have morphs and things like that that are tied into it, people are definitely more of particular. Mm-hmm. You know, they want a jungle that's going to be black and yellow. Yeah. And they want to know it's going to be black and yellow. They want to see parents. They want to see grandparents. They want to see siblings from last year. And that's just the way it is. So a morph does help bring attention and value to that animal. Mm-hmm. So...
And they don't trust you either. Like, you can have a baby jungle and say, it's going to look like this one. And you bring a 2-year-old jungle that's bright yellow and black. Mm-hmm. And they say, how much is the black and yellow one? Oh, he's not for sale.
Yeah,
that's what I want. I don't want this. I want that. Yeah. But it still doesn't work. Like, they go, no, I want that. I don't trust that this is going to look like that. You know, I don't.
Yeah. Every show where I've brought an adult, like mom or dad, is when the babies sell.
It's definitely,
and that's just because the animal sits out and is its bright, impressive adult self. And even then, like, I brought an olive python to a show, one of my males, and that's when all the baby olives sold in one whole show. Yeah. So that happens. People are attracted and drawn into this kind of a thing. And sometimes it's a morph. Sometimes it's not a morph. But morph helps. Morph definitely help. So there's that.
All right. Oh, and I'm going to give you, I'm going to argue your side.
Okay, go ahead. Take your time.
I think sometimes that when you have people that are coming into the hobby, right? Because I'm thinking about this, as you said, like seeing morph in a show.
Don't worry, I dangled that out there hoping you'd grab that hook. So go ahead.
I mean, think of the shows we've been at, right? You know, we're selling. Even though I had morphs, I didn't have the gamma jag or the that. I'm thinking of Riddler, the Jungle Jag, or Mike Curtin's, Ocelot Jags. I mean, you're looking across the White Plains show, and you're like, holy shit, what is that?
Like a beacon.
So I think that the good thing about morphs is, right, it may attract somebody that really doesn't know where to get into reptiles and then sees an animal like that. Because I think of when I first saw Bullwinkle, right? Remember the early days when you go to that Anthony Caponetto's How to Breed Carpets page or whatever, and you'd sit there and there's Bullwinkle right at the top, and you're like, oh my God, what is that? I think it's good that you would get people into it that, it's their stepping stone, right? And then they're going to want to learn about the animal or whatever. But we're talking about rare species, where I think that with the rare species, you need to have that passion for the animal to begin with. I mean, think about the Timor python. And again, I don't understand this for the life of me, but why does anybody give two flying shits about an exantic Timor python? I don't get it. I just don't understand.
You've covered that, Eric? Okay, we get
asked and answered. Move on.
So would it be better?
It would and the Timor.
Yeah, I think you just don't like exantics, dude.
I don't. No, just kidding.
Would it be better for Bull and I if a morph showed up? I mean, it makes the argument right there.
I think too, if you're, I mean, Bull and I are already extravagantly priced as it is,
right?
Let alone if it's an albino.
Like, where do you go from there?
Where do you go?
Yeah.
So
it's albino, another $12,000.
Yeah, the only people that are going to be able to afford that are the YouTubers or whatever,
Oh my God,
Go fund me, baby.
Yeah, please buy my albino Bolins.
You're not going to get it just because you have a passion for the rare species. That'll be a.
I would say the downside of it is that if a morph hatches out of a rare species, you are now the custodian of that. So it is up to you.
Responsibility.
Exactly. It is up to you now to reproduce this, because if you don't, and it dies, you're the reason we don't have X. We don't have a albino this or morph that.
But you were the reason they had it in the first place. If you had
exactly,
it out,
but
so.
the problem
But
is that
nobody's
you don't
looking
ever
at that
want to be
aspect.
right. Nobody cares. But the problem is you don't want to be that footnote in the book that comes out. It's like, well, we had this, it died. Like, because of Owen, like, God damn it! Like,
yeah, but
so,
you know what? I'll tell you this: if I hatched out an albino Tracier, I would shelf that thing. I would stick it in an enclosure, and I would watch it, but I would never reproduce it and sell it.
Ooh.
I've said for years that if I hatched out any kind of brand new carpet morph, it would be out of the egg in a box and shipped to Nick Mutton with like a sticker that says, please don't kill this. Like it just because I don't want to be that guy who's like, we had albino coastals, but Owen fucked it up. Like, nah,
See, this is really why I got out of Morph's game, is because, Owen had somebody that he could send that box to that he knew that he does a show with every week for the past 10
right,
years.
fine,
But
yeah, all
he,
right.
he decides to send it to Nick Mutton.
You're right. A fictitious
I see how
box
it
that
rolls.
never happened.
I
God.
see the game here.
At that point,
now
I
you know
keep
why
it
I hate the
myself.
Morphs.
Like,
A little tender still. A little tender.
It's like, but then there's also the thing of like, if the morph itself is bad for the animal, like if I hatched out the scaleless rough scale python, I'd put it in the freezer. Like it's like I couldn't do this.
Yeah. Even if somebody offered you $200,000 for it,
See, and that's the part right
Listen,
there. Is
Owen can very easily be bought. Okay, let's just say that.
I think most reptile keepers can.
and I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is that's when your why are you in this really gets tested,
especially right now.
If you were to shelf a potential morph. For just the love of the species, like at this point in time, I cannot put this out at no amount of money. I'm still doing what I want to do, and when that starts taking off and cool, and there's no longer any concern in my mind ever of a morph mucking up what I'm trying to do, then maybe I'll sell it. But
just
it's
make
like,
sure you get the $200,000 before you send them the frozen scaleless rough scale.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you got to do it right. Make it look like a shipping accident.
I think a really good example of how popular oddities are is the whole two-headed snake, two-headed turtle market. Like you hatch out one of those, it's not reproducible, but people will pay huge amounts of money because it's an oddity and will bring people to your table to look at a weird thing, and it gets people's attention and stuff like that.
people love one of a kind stuff.
Yeah.
It's my gosh, nobody has this.
The novelty.
There's a sulcata that is twisted halfway down its body, so its feet point up. Its name is Helix. It has a wonderful little following and all this other crap.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a genetic mutant for us idiots to keep it alive and go look at it. Like you want that draw, which it doesn't necessarily need to be a morph. Am I helping Eric right now? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I've lost.
No,
the lines are blurred.
That's a point for you because morphs draw people in, get them excited about what you're.
So just
working
hatch a
with
freak.
or
It doesn't need to be a
whatever.
morph.
I mean, that's what a morph is right? A freak.
Jab a snake's eye out. There you go.
Polly
give
shouldn't
me
be.
a YouTube page.
I think that would just say that us as content creators, if the only thing that somebody can find cool about a reptile is the color or the pattern, then we have failed.
Yeah.
Period.
Man.
Yep.
Mic drop.
You need to be you need to be excited going through your cages, whether it's because I have like a super caramel jag, and then right underneath is like an Angolan python, and it's like awesome, and then like a corn snake. It's like yay! I just keep going.
And I think that kind of goes to the whole like YouTube influencers thing. Like they take away from the animals themselves because it's about them.
Of course.
More than it's really about the animals at that point. As long as they can bring you that animal and you're like, oh, that's a cool thing, it makes it less about the animal and more about them.
But isn't that what we're all about, is trying to get people excited for the things that we're excited for? I mean, anytime Owen talks to somebody on NPR, he's getting that species that they were so excited about. You know, it's really
that does happen a lot.
You get drawn in by somebody's excitement. So yeah, just because they have a big following on YouTube doesn't make that wrong. I don't think, as long as they're doing it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? Like, just saying this is a cool species. You know, that can be a good thing. I think.
Well, but they're influential.
Yeah,
they're influential, and it's how they use their influence. I don't think them promoting reptiles is necessarily a bad thing. It's the way, you know, it's the way it's done.
Yeah.
I think is where I would tread lightly.
Mm-hmm.
I think on NPR for years I've been known as the IJ guy.
Yes.
And facing facts, right?
Yeah.
You know, back in 2009, 2010, nobody really cared except for like me, Luke Snell, Julie, Yasser. I mean, even Nick didn't have really a good collection of IJs, you know? There's probably people I'm forgetting that did it as well. But I'm just saying, like, to me, the people that stand out, right? And it was sort of the odd group of the carpet python world.
You were
right?
shunned, yeah.
It was like, because, I mean, how do you compete with a yellow and black screaming
I was
snake?
always supportive of you.
So I guess I've always been that person that's promoting
The dark
the
side.
yeah, I think the same thing. I think the same thing with inlands.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think the same thing about Antaresia. Holy shit. What cool pythons. And they're small. And you can keep them in a naturalistic setup without anything, but because they're what? Called dirt snakes, that somehow they're not cool
Thanks
anymore?
a lot, Peter
That's
Bird.
just bullshit.
Quit calling them dirt snakes. They're awesome.
Stop it.
Yes. And you remember the first time I came over to your collection, I'll never forget it. You had that rack that was in the corner, and you still have that rack
do.
that's like that white rack
Yep.
with those you know, the one that goes this way,
Yep.
long ways.
Yep.
And in the top of that rack, you had a granite spotted
I
python.
did.
Now, granite, that's a morph. I get
A
it.
granite that
But
was
it was an adult.
No, it was way too big. It was yeah.
No. I know, but
broke
what I'm
that
saying
thing.
is it's an adult, and you pulled it out, and I looked at it, and I was like, that's an adult python? You know, because at that time, I'm used to Burmese pythons,
Right,
reticulated
right,
pythons, like all the big ones, African rock, stuff like that. And I'm like, wait, you can have them in a small size? Like, I don't have to shovel the shit with a shovel? And, like, I just don't think that those species, you know, so to me, that's where I think, you know, us as content creators, I guess if you want to call us that, have sort of that responsibility to get people excited about it. And I mean, years later, I see more of a surge in people wanting to get IJs than ever before, you know? And, and to you, you know, all the liasis that you're always talking about, you don't think, I guess we talk about it and think like we're just shooting the shit, like me and you are talking or whatever. But like at the same time, you're influencing people to want to get that species. Why? Because you're excited about it. And why you're excited about it? Not because of the color or the pattern, because of what it does or what it is or where it's from or what the natural history behind that is. Or like, oh my God, this thing does, you know, this behavior or whatever. And if you set it up like this, you can see it or whatever. I mean, think about like the first time you saw, even if it was in a tub, you had a baby carpet and it perched up on the perch and it's just like waiting for that mouse to come by, you know, and you're just like, ooh, you know. Or I think about how cool it would be if you had an Owen Pelly python and it changes colors, you know, from day to night. And, you know, I don't know. Does an Owen Pelly have to have a morph?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, that's
touche.
That's the thing too. Is it popular because it's rare, or is it popular because it's cool? You know, if you're buying something because it's rare, you're probably not going to stick with that thing. I would think. You know,
right.
If you're not,
I think it's the same mindset as a morph. No, wouldn't you argue that it's that same mindset that you have, that you want to have something that somebody else doesn't have, and somehow this is going to set you apart in the reptile community? Well, how about just be a positive person in the reptile community? I'm sure that's going to set you apart.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, instead of going on and arguing with everybody about what they're doing wrong, why don't you teach people about what they're doing right or how they could do it right without being an asshole about it? And maybe you don't need a flashy morph in order to be somebody cool in the reptile hobby.
it's true.
Nice.
Whoa, man.
Nice. That was.
Working the
I
body,
think I got a
working the
little
body.
chubby over here listening to Eric go.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
I knew it was not going to do well if he gets passionate and gets on this soapbox.
I love it when the fire comes up in the
It's been a
Podfather,
while
man.
since we let him go off on a tangent on NPR. Yeah.
I
It
love
has
that
been.
shit.
It has been.
And that's what it's all about, right? That's why we're in this in the first place. Because when we were kids, we saw some, snake in the wild, or we caught a garter snake and we got really excited. Now, somewhere along the lines, we kind of lose that excitement and we turn it over to morphs or to rarity or to, and I still love to just issue this challenge. Get something that's not commercially viable, that nobody cares about but you. Get something that's not worth $10, and work with that animal and just be passionate about it and love it. That's I think that brings more excitement and fulfillment than trying to chase down and make money off of snakes. Frankly, and I think if you do it, you're going to enjoy it. I've got some shovel nose snakes, and they're so fun to keep. They're just really cool snakes.
Yeah.
They're brightly colored. They're gorgeous, but
man.
nobody's breeding them.
They're
Nobody
doing
really
good for you
cares
still?
them. Oh yeah, they're fantastic. They'll take roaches off the tongs, man. They're just crazy, awesome snakes. I mean, an insectivorous.
And those are really pretty.
snake.
Those are really pretty ones.
Yeah, I mean, they have the same patterns as coral
looking.
snake, for crying out loud. So and my local buddy, he found somebody that would sell him a bunch. So he bought a bunch off of some guy that catches them. I'm like, whoa, I don't know about that, but
nice.
he gets to work with them too. So now my local buddy has a bunch of them too. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But they're a fun species. They don't need a morph. There was an albino that Jeff Lem had, and I think he produced from it, but it hasn't. As far as I know, it's not widely available or anything. So but. I don't want an albino. I want the normal wild type stuff with the nice red on it and stuff. It's just cool snakes. Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten to the point where I breed for myself, and then y'all can fight over what I don't want. So it's like it's gotten to that point now where I used to not keep anything from like pairs and things like that. Now I'm going through it. And I think I have like 6 or 7 holdbacks from this year because I'm just like, ooh, that's a caramel tiger boy. I don't have one of those. You stay, Mark. Oh, but this girl's pretty too, Mark. It's like, okay. So
I think that's my big issue now is now when I hatch something out, I want to hold back as much of it as possible, watch it all kind of grow up and just soak it up, soak up as much as I can before I finally have to come to the realization of like, okay, I can't keep all
I don't
this.
need 5 male tigers.
Yeah. And then, oh, by the way, unless it's an adult, it's easier to get rid of when it's colored up if it's a carpet. You know what I mean?
True.
So it's like kind of a side benefit.
And it's easier to sell when it's colored
that's
up.
also known
because
as
people like
Berking
morphs.
the clutch.
Yeah,
Berking the clutch.
Berking the whole clutch.
I wanted to Burke all the inlands, but everybody wants them. I'm like, gosh, dang it! And I don't necessarily want to feed all these babies either.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I'll run
that's
out
cool.
Of space, which is I mean, it's really cool to see something
That's
like
good.
the inlands where they're less appreciated. They're not as flashy as a jungle, but they're just cool in their own right. They're calm. I mean, they're so awesome.
and only like a handful of people gave a shit about them 5 years ago.
Well, frankly, I was one of those until I saw him in person.
I was gonna say
person,
like 4 of them are right here. Like,
when I saw him in person, I'm like, oh, I was wrong. These are not just weird looking coastals. These are something special.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they're so easy going. I mean, my kids will go in the room, just open the cage, pull one out, and show their friends, and then they drape it over their neck, and they don't have to worry about getting bit. They're just such cool carpet pythons. Yeah.
unless they got food in their hand, and then
it's
definitely
on.
got to
Yeah.
worry
They're
about
good.
getting bit.
These babies, they're all taking off really well. They're all eating on their own, no issues. And some of the past
fantastic.
clutches, I've had some issues getting them to feed sometimes. But these guys
The
have
worst
been
carpet
awesome.
bite I took was from a Malgan.
Oh, really?
I had food in my hand.
Oh, you
that
gotta
female
feed
that
misguided feed.
that would hurt.
drilled me and would not. Oh, it was horrible, dude. I was just like, and they're so docile, like they're so. But man, they get food crazy.
Yeah,
It's
they definitely do.
But that's why I like them. They're good feeders and cool snakes.
I will add them eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so. It's one of those things where you can't show anybody, you can't tell them, but when you see them in person, you're like, oh, these are fucking insane. Like, just the
problem.
colors.
I've seen them in person because, and they've been in the back of my head because I did a show with Ben once and we split a table and he had some and they were like gnawing on the back of my head then, and then Eric stuff, like he just has them all. Let's go to the inland wing of the collection. So there's that.
I only have 2.2. What are you talking
still
about?
there. I mean, come now.
Well, that male I have is stellar because it's got a red tail.
Yeah,
there have been several animals where I turn to Eric. I'm like, you were never allowed to show me this animal again. Okay, if you do, I will take it.
And I feel like the selective breeding potential of Metcalfi is largely untouched. I mean, they're still like, oh my dude, those things could be insane.
Yes. If you even look at what bredli is, you could do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this might be siding with you a little bit, Owen, but I think if you want to look at jungle carpets as like the color of them and how they've been refined and selectively bred to look the way they look and they don't look like what's in the wild, to me, that sort of gave the blueprint to what is possible with the rest of the carpet python complex that nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but few people really cared about those. Like the inlands would be an example. Darwin's would be another one. I think me and Justin are probably the only ones that wanted the ones that weren't albino. I'm like, screw the albino shit. I just want a Darwin. Like that's a Darwin, Everybody else is focused on the albino part of it. But like to me, all those, subspecies, species, whatever they are, races.
let's go to the poster.
To be determined when the book comes out. Hold on. But I just think that there's so much potential in those untapped, subspecies of carpet pythons.
I don't know. I will say too. I keep hearing like jungles aren't what they are in the wild, but I hope the new book will kind of give a little better appreciation for some of the wild jungles. There's just some crazy looking jungles out there that have some just beautiful black and yellow coloration. I don't know. I can give you page numbers if you want, but
there's only 2 people, 3, 4,
I don't know.
5
I don't know
people
why
on
we're
the
doing that.
planet that have this book. So
I'll write the page numbers down for when my book comes in 2 months.
Exactly.
I got to be honest. The first when I opened it was.
We're not talking about Pete Call, Ruby. Calm down.
The one from Lake Mars.
Yeah,
making sure.
The one from Lake Mars.
The one that Scott took.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Holy shit!
Cool.
Yeah.
And did you notice it was missing its tail?
The tail?
Got its tail gnawed off by something. And it's still one of the most beautiful carpet pythons you'll see. I love that one by Shane Black on page 37 too. I mean, it's got a little black, kind of fish netting, but it's gorgeous. The one on page 36 that Lyle Naylor took. I mean,
I prefer the one on page 38, honestly.
The one on 40 that has more black on it.
Mm-hmm.
Really thin.
Can I get a 52, 52, 5,
5,
3,
6,
1,
12,
10, 7?
94.
That the Paluma locality from
Now
Scott
you're just
Iper, the
being
northern
mean.
coastal. That thing is nuts. Isn't it on page 38 that Owen was talking about? That thing
Out
is
of all the
crazy.
pictures you picked of me for the book, I dislike it.
Oh, yes.
You
didn't like that one? I thought that was cool.
Well, I mean, I'm wandering around aimlessly in the desert.
Yeah, I don't know.
Man, that's
cool.
wild looking.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and to me, that's the fun part of carpets.
The
it's
variability.
Like, all that variability is there.
Yeah. I'm really excited about the.
You can still
variety.
have that, but with a morph.
Yeah. I mean,
well, and I am of the, and I know this is a very unpopular thing to say, but there's so much potential when you step across taxonomic boundaries with carpets and start putting stuff that isn't normally together, and you see that. I mean, like people who've seen stuff that isn't normally put together, and it's sacrilegious, and it's it is against all forms of better judgment, but damn, those snakes are nice, are they not? I mean,
there
we
are
wouldn't
some
know
killer
what
ones. There's also some very
looked like.
Yeah, right. There's also some very ugly ones too. You look at the head albino Brettles that are like
Listen, Justin, we
don't
can't
care
all be
about those.
pretty,
It's not
okay?
important.
Yeah,
Can't
I
all
mean,
be
there's some
pretty.
hits and misses for sure with hybrids, but you do get some crazy, intergrades or hybrids that are just phenomenal looking. But I don't know.
It seems in all my morph clutches, I got the misses.
Hey, but you had that gene.
I
you
got
had
the
that
misses.
gene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
that's the other.
exactly.
That's the other side is when you're one of the first ones to get it. You're also the one you haven't refined it yet, and so the babies you're producing gives the next buyer a leg up, and so you almost have to keep those. But then you got to compete with the other guys who bought them and are trying to make their money back faster, that kind of thing. And it's just I don't know.
Yeah, it's a race in multiple directions.
It's
right?
a weird race.
It's a numbers race. It's a quality race, and that person who imported it and sold it to you is always holding that card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the morph thing is for somebody that, because you see some people in the hobby that are like this. They're like really into the business side of reptiles.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's awesome, right? You need that. I think you need that in a hobby, but
if you're going to make a go
I
of
think
it,
that
it's definitely not the fun side. Yeah.
No. And I think I
Mind-numbing.
realized this, a few years ago. It's sort of like you're approaching it like a business, and that means that you're not necessarily doing what you want to do.
But what if you like reptiles and you really enjoy business and you can
that's what I'm
find
saying.
ways to make
Mix the
both
two.
of those things work. And I think there are those people out there. You know what I mean?
Justin Kabilka.
Where they,
Yeah.
100%.
You know who comes
Nick
to mind with
Martin.
that? Lori Martin.
Yeah.
When we were talking to her, she's very, very like business. You can tell that she's just a very business type of person, right? But and
sharp.
she's got ball pythons, but she also has like popwin pythons, like real popwin pythons, not the
popwin carpets, yeah.
the
Not
Not
that
midget
cheap
carpets,
knockoff kind.
Yeah, not those.
So she has those. So I think that she's like, to me, that's where I see that side of her where she's a reptile keeper. Like you can tell that she's into the reptiles that she's into, and then there's the business side. And I see a few people like that are really in that mindset.
Nick was talking,
and I think that's good.
Nick was talking about reading like sales, books on sales
Nick
and
was
stuff
like
like that.
that, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that sounds horrible. Like that sounds like
Yeah.
torture. I'm not in this to
Right.
sell
Right.
stuff. I'm in this to work with animals. But it really
Says the guy who hates to update his website.
It definitely does help your business if you can do that as well, and obviously Nick's been very successful and has done very well, and I mean he's paid off a couple houses, he's got a bunch of money in reserve in case lean times come, those kind of things. He's a very very smart businessman. Yeah.
You're welcome, Mr. Martin.
Yeah, that one house has a plaque for Eric on it. Yeah, it's weird.
Paid for by Eric Berg.
Eric Berg. There you go.
I think between him and Paul, I probably paid for that car he was working on for years. And
How much of that Corvette is?
I wondered why he called it Little E.
You see Eric.
Yeah.
You see Eric walking out of Nick's garage with just big parts of a Corvette in his hand, like I'm taking my shit back.
Let's go drive the EB. What? That one, the Corvette.
Oh my god,
That's
amazing.
awesome.
That's fantastic.
Well, I think this has been a really good discussion. I mean, obviously, the morphs have taken the reptile world by storm, and they're probably not going away anytime soon, especially with ball pythons. But I really hope that anybody listening can appreciate reptiles. You go back to when you were a kid and you're first experiencing a reptile. Appreciate it for those reasons. Get into it for the right reasons. That maybe up front, rather than going through this long process of getting into the pyramid morph game and then realizing these animals are cool without a morph, and then getting out or getting into herping or something. Like just maintain that appreciation. I think that really is what brings the excitement and the joy and the fun of the reptile hobby. But that's just my opinion.
I just got in.
Amen.
I just got in some Eric Hernandez red coastals.
Oh,
yeah.
I looked at them, but after this I'm gonna go
Look at them.
check them
Okay.
out. Yeah.
Look at them more.
You're like, okay, time to end. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, here.
Yep. Well, any last parting words? You guys all talked out, all fought out.
I would say that you can appreciate an animal for a morph and what it is, but then you can also appreciate an animal for just what it is, base model.
Yeah.
I got a Melendorfi, and I love the little. He's a bastard, but I love him because of what he is. And they offered me a patternless one, and I'm like, I don't want it. I want a Melendorfi. I want what it looks like. So there's that, but then also I have a Blue Barons racer, which is one of the most beautiful colubrids I think you can ever see. And I love her just because of she's this blue shoelace that is all over the place and all those other things. So you can appreciate her, and it's an added level because she's blue.
Aren't they a little spicy as well?
Oh God, yeah. She's we're learning things. Yeah. Like it's fine. It's fine. They're all still here. So
don't get bit on the ring finger.
Yeah, well, we need that.
You're gonna need that
but
a little bit.
There's ways you can do that, and I can appreciate my coastals, my caramel jags. I can appreciate a striped coastal I just got from Billy. That the only thing about it is it's got some stripes to it. So. You can appreciate other things that just don't get. It's very easy to get lost in the whole thing and to get towed under, and then all you're thinking about is morph this and morph that. So, like you said, get back to the base of it, of the reptile and the snake, and enjoy it for what it is.
Awesome. Yeah, very well said. All right. Well, let's hear where we can find you guys.
Nowhere.
Not that we don't say that at the end of every show, but I usually screw it up somehow. So, yeah.
No worries. MorelliPythonRadio.com. And if you want to get in touch with us, info at MorelliPythonRadio.com.
Right.
So it's the Patreon, the Teespring store. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. This isn't our show. Sorry.
Yeah, stop it.
Well, I guess you guys in particular, everybody knows where to find you, so we're probably good there.
If you're looking at this point, I don't,
Look below in the show notes. Everything you need to know is there.
Right there in the show. We have show notes? Wow.
All right. Well,
you do a lot.
Maybe if you wrote
here it
comes.
I forgot.
I'm just kidding.
I forgot to
There's
ask
the
you
nerve.
I'm just kidding.
the top of the show, Eric. Didn't you do some herping recently? Did you get out and? That's
did.
Awesome. Where'd you go?
I did.
Were you in Pennsylvania? Or?
We went, up by the Pocono Mountains. A couple of the NPR fans have been trying to get us up
cool.
there. Robert and opened us up his house to me, and it was awesome. His family was awesome, and he just like every time. Oh yeah, there's tons of snakes here in this spot. I was like, there's going to be no snakes there, man. I'm telling you, man, there's tons of snakes. Every time I come here, I find 10 snakes. There was one snake, but I got to see a water snake.
Oh yeah.
Nerodia. It was awesome. Beautiful scenery. Yeah, it was really cool. Hang out. You know,
it's always good to have
fellow
an excuse to
herpers.
get out there and herp for sure.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Especially in your backyard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get to know different spots. Yeah. Well, cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody listening to Reptile Fight Club, and we'll catch you again next week for another episode.
We got the Podfather and the Mackin Wiki. Who the hell do you have?
Fight Club.